Our guest now joins us from his residence in Abuja. Dr. Aliyu Ilias, who is an ardent economist and the chairman slash MD of CAC Advisory. Our first point of call this morning takes us to one of the most prominent stories greeting the front pages, which is the terminal leave as embarked upon by the outgoing INEC Chairman, Professor Yakubu. Most newspapers this morning look at it as 10 years of reforms under his chairmanship at the INEC. What do you make of the outgoing chairman's time in office?
I think it's expected that he performed than other chairman of INEC simply because he has the ample time to actually carry out that. You recall that he's the only chairman that was on the helm of affairs for good 10 years, so he has all the opportunity to actually fix a lot of things. And I can also say thank you to him to an extent because he has bring a lot of reform in terms of beavers, Bermuda situation and that are things that we could see. He has actually introduced technology into INEC. And I also want to say when he actually was handing over the letter, was it yesterday, he was telling the public that he wanted to go on time so as to give the new acting chairperson, which is the most senior commissioner, ample time to actually plan. We have election very, very close. So I think it's quite instructive. It's a good one. And we must also say thank you to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for handing him OON. I think it's also well deserved. No matter what, it's not easy to be at the of affair for 10 years, to conduct a lot of off-cycle election and also national election.
Now, I know you talked about his time in office, saying he had ample time, but looking at some of the reforms under his chairmanship, which of them tops the list, and which of the promises would you say were not kept as well?
Right. So I think the most interesting one is the beavers. I think it's a good one because it's actually reduced the level of contention in terms of looking at the election proper. But the transmission is also another problem. I think that faces a major problem whereby for someone like me, I want to have a political party at the back end so that I can actually see what is going on. Because when you cannot transmit from the polling units for people to actually see, it becomes a serious problem. I think that's the other side of it. Then another thing is that under his watch, we've also seen court declaring more political office than even INEC. Anytime he declares, people still go to courts to actually contend with such thing. We saw during the former one who actually did Buhari Jonathan election. After the election, Jonathan never contests the election, but under his own watch, people have been contesting more compared to him. So I think we should strengthen our electoral processes so that people will accept declaration of INEC, not going to court to accept another alternative declaration.
Now, there are speculations trailing his exit as to who the president would appoint. One of the names on the scorecards as published by Daily Trust newspaper is Amupiton. Tell us what you make of this speculation, and is he the most eligible candidate to be appointed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to talk about the independence of head of INEC. That is a major thing. The process of appointing that position, I think, is a serious problem that Nigeria must look into critically. Because as much as government of the day appoints it, we have the belief that he would dictate the, pipe. I mean, who brings where
He who
the
pays
point
the
that I'm just
piper
trying to.
detects the tune.
Thank you. So I think that's the fear we actually have. So I think what the latest is actually is much more of speculation. We must have somebody who does not have political affiliation and possibly who does not even affiliate with the president or APC itself or any political party. But it's pretty difficult for you to find someone like that. Perhaps that instrument, that structure that is still there, we still have the president appending his signature to the president, no matter who actually screen. No matter how National Assembly try to go around it, the president still have the final say. And until we change that, I think we need to do more. Then in terms of the person, the
Professor Josh
INEC is,
Ojo Amupitan.
yes, if you look at that very well, even from the name, it sounds that the person is from the southwest. And these are the things that we must also start to look at critically. That we must also find a way that the person who is going to lead the helm of affair must not also come from the same geopolitical zone. Because we have about seven geopolitical, I mean 6 or 7 geopolitical zones as it were. Why will it be that it's coming from where president is actually leading? I think we must also look at that critically.
There's another name greeting the scorecard, although the source said that there are three names that have been zeroed in on, and Professor Josh Ojo Amiputan seems to be leading the trio. There's also Justice Abdullahi Mohammed Lehman amongst the three names being purported. What do you make of that, away from the notion that the INEC chairman should not also emerge from the same zone as the president?
Right. So if you are actually bringing a justice, well, we'll see how that will actually work. I don't think we have had such before. Mostly we have academicians that actually held the affair of the INEX. I think, to be candid, I'm I don't really have priority for a particular area, but we want somebody who will come, reform, and they will be sincere in terms of declaration. You have seen people in prison. You have seen like 2 professors serving their jail term because of the way they actually handle the election. So for me, I think it's very critical that we look at somebody who has the discipline. It's about discipline to also not to compromise. And you also recall that beyond the INEC chairman too, we also have other commissioners. So we must let that resonate among all the appointees of president to the INEC.
Well, it's the end of an era. You talked about the need for independence in the selection process. It's amongst part of the reforms that a lot of Nigerians are canvassing for. What's your level of hope in the fact that we'll be able to achieve an independent electoral commission where even the appointment of the chairman is one that shows autonomy in that regard?
Right. So I actually wondered, why is it that it is when the period of appointment is closer that Nigerians started talking about it, the president started sourcing for it. I think it should have been a process that even by now we know who is actually coming. So it will give room for a lot of speculation, a lot of tension, because it's actually bringing a lot of tension to the politics. Because the political parties are jostling that no, you must give us somebody who is truly independent. And the APC-led administration also wants somebody may want somebody who actually better their lot. So these are the things that we need to look at. But ideally, we should create an institution that will be producing such a INEC chairman, not it will be under appointment of Mr. President.
Now, before we change subjects this morning, you talked about the introduction of technology under his watch with the IREF portal. Another turning point was the signing of the Electoral Act of 2022 under his watch as well. Many had talked about the fact that we might need to strengthen our electoral laws for the punishment of electoral offenders. Despite the provision of the Electoral Act 2022, we cannot count on one hand the number of prosecutions that have followed in terms of either vote buying, intimidation, or election day violence. What do you make of this assertion?
Well, ordinarily, if you ask me my view, I think INEC should be unbundled. Because if you look at the problem of INEC, aside from litigation, we have the problem of logistics. So I could also remember that the same Mahmoud said he was at the airport trying to move items to Imo and whatever, and there was force majeure. That is an act of God. So for me, I think it should be unbundled into two, where one will focus on logistics and one will focus on the administration and litigation and other issues related. This would have give us, more of, because if you look at our country, it's very big. So when you are managing the election from one office, it brings a lot of distraction. So if we can separate the logistics part, who move the material, who produce the material, who get the vehicle, the transportation, the supply chain, therein. If we can actually have that one side and have the administrative part of it once, I think that would have helped. But though it's an ongoing amendment, I'm sure the National Assembly will see reason to also continue to amend. But for him to have also push a new electoral law and what have you, I think we should salute him for that. So we look forward to the next person to also add its own value to it. But I'm sure we may find it difficult to have somebody who enjoy two tenure like him. So whoever comes in now should maximize the period that is actually being given.
Well, in the words of Dr. Aliyu Ilias, whoever succeeds Professor Mahmoud Yakubu might not be lucky to have a two-term tenure. A one tenure for the INEC chairman is a period of 5 years. Now, moving on to another subject that has sparked a lot of controversy across the social media space up until the resignation of Chief Uche Nnaji was the scandal involving an alleged UNN certificate and an NYC certificate. The Premium Times, following a 2-year investigative report, unearthed this secret. And it had been quite, would I say, shrouded in a lot of uncertainty up until the president accepted Chief Uche Nnaji's resignation. But what does this do in terms of setting a precedent? Because this will not be the second or the third time we're finding an appointed office holder embroiled in alleged certificate forgery.
But I think this is more deeper than what we've been saying. You recall that the former Minister of Finance was actually having issue of NYC certificates, and he actually resigned. On the issue of Nnaji, we have case of the degree certificates and also the NYC certificate. Up until yesterday, I saw somebody who actually came on air to canvass for him. That was political witch hunt and whatever. But for me, I think be it political witch hunt, be it whatever, you should be able to defend whatever you are presenting to the public. Perhaps the public is not expecting a degree from you to lead us. If in fact the constitution give you room to present a secondary school certificate, in as much as you can campaign for people and they can vote for you, I think it's a good one. But by and large, I think we've been having the issue of certificate forgery. What I listened to this morning was also even saying that even the president has not come clear, even though court has set that aside. We have also have it during Muhammad Buhari. Even Muhammad Buhari, it also affect the former president as well. So I think we should start doing the due diligence, and I would like to put the blame on the people that screened him to become the minister.
On placing the blame there, when you say people, it cuts across a number of institutions. The big question is, how can an alleged forged certificate go through the presidency, go through the National Assembly, go through the DSS and SSS without being flagged up until the point that he was screened and asked to take a bow and go?
Well, that's is quite surprising on the fact that El-Rufai was disqualified because of security reasons. And I think his own was delayed to an extent. I can't really recall because I don't think they passed him immediately. But however,
He was amongst the first batch of 28 nominees that the president submitted first. He was amongst the first 28 batch of ministers that the president submitted to be approved by the National Assembly.
So this actually shows a gap on our institutions, right from university up to the NYSC, and finally on the DSS that actually put up the screening. What are they actually screening? So if not for academics and character, what are they actually screening? You also recall that a kind of in 2023, there have been a front and back on this issue, and according to Premium Time, it took them 2 years to actually unravel that investigation. Doesn't mean the presidency does not have idea of what is actually going on, because he continued to say yes, he graduated, but the data and the facts on ground is not pointing to what is actually saying. And I also hear it from, will I say, grapevine, that he was actually forced to resign because he may not want to resign, he may want to use his office to actually keep, pressing further. But it's appeared for me, I know he was advised to actually resign, but to cover it, they said he actually resigned. But to tell me going forward, I think presidency need to do more, even beyond this administration. I recall, was it thought, in our you don't remember the Salisu Buhari case of Toronto during Olusegun Obasanjo? It was a certificate scandal also. It's like our country is the country that you can actually brandish any certificate you bring into the country, because we are only seeing this because this person is a minister. It may have been happening in different other level of appointments, commissioner, even in this Senate, even in the state commissioner, state assembly, even in private sector. So we must have a way to actually check all this for appropriate record. And because more so, it's also discouraging when you see somebody who has find the shortcuts and get to the level of minister. It's quite pathetic.
Well, we can't overflog the issue, but if for anything, do you propose that there be punishments? Because people say it's a criminal offense to forge. But when it happens with those that are considered to be high and mighty, the prosecutions are largely vague as to what the punishment is for such offenses. What do you?
Well, I think we should leave that for the courts to decide, because I recall, was it Olusegun Obasanjo, when they discovered something like that, the person was later pardoned or something. So I think we should leave the court, did the job. If he's found wanting, he should face the law, so that that will stand as a detriment to people who wanted to perpetrate such a, dastard acts of forgery. So I think we should leave that to court, and we should allow the court to follow it to their levels. And then on the premium time side, I think they are doing this for the second time. I want to say well done to them, because it doesn't come easy. A lot of threats would have come alongside it. A lot of we recall that when they're even narrating their ordeal, going through the NYSC, going through the University of Nigeria, a lot of things actually was explained, and was, that the rigor, they did not even give them the rooms. We have had like three or two VC and registrar in this case, and what the first registrar and the VC gave was different from what this new set actually gave. That actually give a concern. A school should be able to keep record of all students.
Now, in moving on, talking about punishments, whilst this one is left to the courts to decide, the Senate, following resumption of plenary yesterday, also deliberated on the approval of a 10-year ban for Nigerians convicted of crimes abroad, a 10-year passport ban to be specific. What do you make of this decision, and how would it better shape our global image?
Well, I don't know. Please, I don't know if I permit to ask you, has they been ratified? Has that been ratified?
Not at the moment, but the approval had been given yesterday.
Right. You know why I said so? Because if you look at most of our leaders, most of them perpetrate a lot of things in the past abroad, and I'm sure I can, in fact, in my mind, I don't want to mention. I can mention three, four person who is the leader, and I've said to be have been convicted abroad before. So if you say you should ban, they actually suffer the brunt more, and I pretty find it difficult that they will approve. But if they actually approve that, it would be a good one. It will also serve as a caution to Nigerians abroad to also manage the way they actually are doing things, and to also make sure that the future is also there to catch up with them if they perpetrate any negative acts that will bring negative externalities to Nigeria.
Well, Doctor, we must thank you for your time on the program as we kickstart a series of other discussions following decisions and the laws, enabling laws to ensure that we're better people and can better represent our country. Thank you for making our time to be part of this discourse.
Thank you for having me. Good
Always a
evening.
pleasure. Now, Dr. Aliyu Ilias, the MD of CSA Advisory and an ardent economist, lending his thoughts to the first part of our discuss this morning.